Good morning and welcome to the 15th Beyond Borders breakfast debate. I'm Andrew Lansley and I am your moderator for this. I'm the Senior Counsel at Low Associates who have the privilege and pleasure of working with our colleagues at DG Regio. Today we have a particular honour in having the former Prime Minister of Italy, Mr. Enrico Letta, join us to talk about navigating the EU single market. In these discussions, as you know, we encourage audience participation. Do please use the chat to place questions that I can use with our panelists and keep that discussion going on the chat. Please be aware that we have the recording in progress for today's discussion. I'm going to commence by inviting our audience, who I hope are now joining us. We have a very good and full audience today, to start by looking at the first of two polls. We're going to undertake two polls today, the first of which is to ask the question, which will bring it up so that people can read the first question. Luana, if you'd be kind enough to show us the first question, which is, what challenges do small and medium enterprises in border regions encounter when seeking to broaden their operations on the other side of the border? The options to choose from, and you can choose more than one, are firstly that cross-border trade is hampered by legal and administrative barriers. Second, fiscal obstacles arise. Thirdly, market opportunities across the border are reduced. Fourthly, that transportation and logistical challenges narrow operations. And fifthly and finally, competition from larger enterprises escalates. You can choose more than one. I will report the results of that first poll after we have heard from our first two speakers. Let me begin by inviting Slawomir Tokarski, who is the Director of Territorial Cooperation at DG Regio, to begin by introducing the subject of our debate this morning. Good morning, Slawomir.
Good morning, Andrew, and thank you for this introduction. And let me start by greetings and welcome to our special guest today, Mr. Letta, and other distinguished members of the panel, and also by welcoming participants joining the debate right now. Now, we are going to speak today about border regions and small and medium enterprises in the context of the single market. And I think there are good reasons for this, because firstly, as a reminder, Interreg was originally created in a clear connection with the single market as a way to help border regions to adapt to their new role in this context. And secondly, border regions are true living laboratories of European integration, since they are hotspots of intense cross-border interaction, where many people carry out daily activities on both sides of the border. So, on one hand, there are regions where the advantages of the single market and freedom of movement are very visible, and where new ideas and solutions for European integration are often tested for the first time. At the same time, on the second hand, there are regions where obstacles to European integration and cohesion are also very visible, and where they still affect many aspects of cross-border life. So, border regions are therefore a good starting point for an analysis on the status of the single market in the cross-border context, and for a reflection on its functioning today and in the future. So this is my very short intro to this debate, and I think we should not waste any more time before we start our discussion. And with that, Andrew, I will pass the floor back to you. I think you are muted, Andrew.
Thank you, Slawomir. Not a waste of time at all. Thank you very much for that very helpful introduction. Let me turn now to our honoured guest, Mr. Enrico Letta, who is former Prime Minister of Italy, also, of course, President of the Institute Jacques Delors, and this year, in the course of 2023, has been asked by the European institutions to prepare a high-level report on the future of the single market. Mr. Letta, you are indeed very welcome. Our audience, drawn from those who are engaged in cross-border region cooperation, as we know from past discussions in these border debates, is what we think of as a living lab of European integration, but also enable us to see where there are administrative or legal obstacles and the tools that the European Union can use to try and deal with those obstacles. But as examples of the single market, I hope they will be very useful to you in your endeavours. We and the audience would be delighted to hear from you, Mr. Letta. I hand the floor to you.
Thank you so much. I'm very pleased to have this opportunity. That is for me one of the most important working activities today. For a very simple reason, I strongly believe that my report can be interesting only if it is an sort of collective exercise in which I am the tool, I am the voice, but there's, I'm sure, a large set of ideas, people working on some of the topics of the future of the single market, people having ideas, people discussing in the last years or in the last months about some of the potential solutions to the problems that we are having. And I have my ideas, of course, but the topic of the single market has some aspect of technicalities and aspects where it is very important to have creative ideas. And this is why I accepted the invitation, because first of all, your point of view for me is crucial for a very simple reason. The cross-border cooperation is one of the conditions to have what we missed until now with the single market as it was, so the scale up at European level. And we had, even in the last big choice and positive choice that as Europeans we did, and I'm referring to Next Generation EU, a decision to have this investment leg, totally, I would say, unexpected 4 years ago, successful, but with one problem, that is the demonstration of one of the, I would say, topics and one of the legacies that we bring from the past, too much national, if I may say, in terms of the way in which Next Generation EU is conceived and is enforced. There's part of Next Generation EU which is cross-border and European, but if I may say, the core of the project is based on national projects. This is why I would like to put at the very core of my report all the thoughts, the reflections, the conditions on how to enhance the cross-border cooperation, which is, in my view, the only way to scale up and the only way to mix and to have the true openness that until now we are missing. There are many studies and many figures showing that there's no comparison between what is happening in the US and what is happening in the European Union in terms of the level, the intensity of exchanges among states of the United States and the level of exchanges and cooperation among the member states of the European Union. And so I'm here just to tell you I'm open. I have my ears very much in a listening mood. I would like to use this opportunity to take ideas, to put ideas in my report and to make my report as a report in which the topic of how to get out from this national inward-looking approach that in the last period we had can use new tools, creativity, and I think my job is to try to create a new toolbox, and this new toolbox needs to have the cross-border approach as the most important one. So I'm here just to tell you that not only in this meeting, but also through this meeting, I hope that we can cooperate in the next weeks Unfortunately, the time that the European Council and the European Commission gave me, it's a very short time because I'm supposed to present the report at the European Council before the European elections, so March 21st, and March 21st is tomorrow. So I have just the time of this winter to work, ready for a spring that I hope will be a positive spring. So I stop here. I tell you that I'm very happy to listen your points. I will reply at the end. But I'm first of all interested in keeping the contact for the next weeks and to receive your ideas. And I will be happy to have further discussions on that. I thank you so much. I stop here.
Mr. Letta, thank you very much indeed, and thank you for introducing this and being so receptive to the views of our audience. I know many of the past debates that we've had will provide very useful material for you as well, because despite the fact that many of the cross-border regions in Europe effectively work as very integrated regions, nonetheless, they do encounter administrative and legal obstacles and are finding tools to deal with that. And I think that may well be something of relevance to the single market more generally. Let me just turn, if I may, to our first poll, where we asked what challenges SMEs in border regions encounter. And let's see what our audience felt amongst those were the most prevalent. The cross-border trade is hampered by legal and administrative barriers. That was the largest number, with 44% identifying that. Fiscal obstacles, then 29%. And then transportation and logistical challenges, 15%. And then market opportunities and competition from larger enterprises, somewhat related, each of which had 6% responses. So that legal and administrative barriers and how we deal with them is one of the central mechanisms that we have identified in a number of the debates. And I think we'll come on to look at how that has been dealt with. Let's take a testimonial which is relevant to that, about using B Solutions, one of the tools we can use to deal with those obstacles. In a video testimonial which we're taking before we come to the panel discussion, which is coming from the Beata Chamber of Commerce and Industry and is introduced by Johan Blanco from that Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Luana, if you'd be kind enough to play the video for us.
I'm Johan Blanco, responsible of the Cross-Border Chamber of Commerce, Beata, composed by the Chamber of Commerce of Bayonne in Nouvelle-Aquitaine, the Chamber of Commerce of Guipúzcoa in San Sebastián, Euskadi, and the Chamber of Commerce of Navarra in Pamplona. The objective of this Cross-Border Chamber of Commerce is to improve cross-border collaborations between companies and entities of the three territories. The principal obstacle for us is financial, because large part of the companies we work with are very small companies. So the solution for us is to find funding. Nowadays we work with the Euroregion Nouvelle-Aquitaine Euskadi Navarre, and they support us financially in order to give cross-border advice to the companies.
Thank you very much. Johan is, I think, going to be able to contribute through the chat. All of those in the audience, and indeed the panelists, do keep an eye on the chat, because we will be taking questions from there. May we please turn to our panel discussion. And let me begin by bringing in Ricardo Ferreira from DG Regio, who is Planning and Programming Officer for the Border Focal Point Network. Ricardo, grand to have you with us. One of the central things that you have been working on is, through these border debates, how to use tools to remove some of those obstacles, administrative or legal, that are encountered in cross-border trade for small and medium enterprises. I wonder if you might tell us a bit about how that is working and how some of these tools are being used?
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity of being here. This debate is indeed very timely and very helpful. And Mr. Letta has just put the emphasis on the right point. What is the difference? What is the elements that we need to identify from border regions? That's what we have been doing, what we have been trying to do in the past few years. And this led to a few instruments like the B Solutions initiative. But before entering in the tools, it would be important to have the whys. What are the needed elements? Looking at the single market, we must be courageous to say the single market is one of the major achievements of the European Union. Indeed, it is. But when we look to the specificities of cross-border regions, then we start identifying the elements that should be improved. And the perspective here is the need to look to the cross-border local dimension. When the single market was designed, it was a design of the sum of 27, 28 member states by then. And it was the sum of the states. So therefore, it was the sum of national perspectives. And we forgot to include the element of the proximity cross-border. When we teach management, the normal life cycle of a company, of a business, is you explore your local market before you going international. Only when you have some dimension, you go international, only when you have some roots. And the issue of cross-border regions is precisely this. In cross-border regions, we have small companies and frequently micro companies that are exploring international, that are exploring across the border, while they are yet on their local perspective, while they are yet exploring the local market. In many of the tools of the single market, there is the interconnection between two member states. If a big company on one country tries to export to a big company on another country, but then it fails with small details when we go to the proximity local markets perspective. For example, on labor mobility, we have all the tools for people to migrate from one European member state to another European member state. But then when we talk about cross-border commuters, the challenge of going back and forth every day raises new challenges for these commuters. Frequently, the issues of where do I pay my taxes? How do I pay my social contribution? Which is information that in principle, the European directives, European law already sets very well the solutions for, but in practice, the people going to the to the tax administration, one day they go to the tax administration on one side of the border, they get one answer. The next day they go to the other side of the border, tax administration, and they get a completely different answer. So it is this process of allowing for the small tools to the proximity cross-border interactions, which is quite interesting. I frequently use one story. A few months ago, I was participating in one workshop on the border between Sweden and Norway, where they wanted to facilitate, harmonize the regulations for the wood construction sector. And there they had the business side also presenting. And the main message was, yes, there are business opportunities for companies, small companies on one side to explore the other side on a proximity market, my local market, not the feeling of exporting. But they would say the extra red tape that comes with this, to make sure the clarity for regulation, the clarity on trade laws, the clarity on fiscal aspects, etc., etc. The extra red tape is so large that only if you have a company of at least 50 workers, it does pay off. If you have a small company of less than 50 workers, it does not pay off to go across the border on a local perspective. So this is one of the main challenges. What have we been doing? We have been, from the Regio side, trying to collect knowledge and use pilot. So we are aware of the existence of numerous border obstacles, and the more we cooperate, the more obstacles we find. So we have been using the process of piloting to identify solutions for some specific cases on a bottom-up perspective, so addressing one case per one. But at the same time, while this is a game changer for those territories involved in those pilots, we are getting knowledge on the type of obstacles that appear. We have been doing this with B solutions. We will hear about some cases later on today. Via B solutions, we have been providing this support. And I think that is all for the moment.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. You'll see in the chat, if you're following the chat, do keep an eye out. There are some useful links. Marianne has put one up about cross-border labour market based on evidence derived from these solution activities. So do have a look at that. After hearing from Ricardo, let's launch the second of our polls. Let's put up the question, which is, what policies and/or measures would ensure the single market functions effectively in border regions? And our options are enhancement of Interreg programs, more one-stop shops or information centres for SMEs in border regions, an EU legal tool to enhance cooperation by solving border obstacles, the enhancement of cross-border training and capacity building curricula, and fifthly, establishment of joint business incubators and accelerators, industrial zones, etc. So five options, but you don't have to choose between them. You can name more than one if you think these would be important for ensuring single market functions effectively in border regions. We'll come back to that in a short while. Let's turn, if I may, to Evgeny Ivanov, who is General Manager at Euro Consultants Bulgaria and much engaged in cross-border cooperation between Greece and Bulgaria. Evgeny, could you tell us a bit about how you have used some of these tools to tackle administrative or legal obstacles in cross-border cooperation?
Hello, I'm speaking from Sofia, Bulgaria now. Glad to see you all today. Let me give you an outline of the CBC border area between Greece and Bulgaria. It is around 40,000 square kilometers, which is very close to the areas of Netherlands, Switzerland, or Denmark. We have around 2.6 million people living there, and we have 11 NUTS2 regions. And basically, there is not efficient cooperation in this area for many reasons. We've studied a number of factors like foreign direct investment, employment and labor market, business structures, etc. So there is discrepancy in the number of Bulgarian companies entering Greece. So the assignment was to see why there is more interest by Greek companies coming to Bulgaria rather than vice versa. And something else, even after we did this analysis, we see that the majority of investment from Greece to Bulgaria or from Bulgaria to Greece is from the capital areas, not from the cross-border region. And we see that the main investments come from medium-sized or large companies from capital or metropolitan areas to the respective border areas. Here, we also need to take into consideration that economically, Greece is far more developed than Bulgaria. So naturally, over the period from year 2000 up to like 2020, according to a study, over 15,000 investors from Greece came to Bulgaria. And one of the main reasons, of course, is the tax situation. Let me give you some examples. The value-added tax in Greece is 24% versus 20% in Bulgaria. The personal income tax and the corporate profit income tax in Bulgaria is a flat rate of 10%. For Greece, it ranges from 9% from up to 10,000 euro annual income to 44% for over 40,000 euro income. So there is a big discrepancy in the figures a company has to pay when entering the Greek market compared to when it does business in Bulgaria. And we Bulgarians, we all love the Halkidiki coast. So if there is a interest by Bulgarian companies going to Greece, this is mainly for tourist businesses and private investments. So based on this situation, the opinion of Bulgarian companies is that there is very large complexity of the rules for making business in Greece compared to the ones in Bulgaria. We tried to see whether this was a result of the legal framework. Obviously it is, but what kind of solutions we have proposed, they're not so much focused on legal changes, rather than a variety of measures for improving the understanding of Bulgarian companies, how to make business in Greece, what is the local business environment, encouragement of cooperation of state institutions and district authorities or prefectures in providing much more information on what are the business opportunities on both sides of the border. Here, we also need to make a big note that Bulgaria and Romania are still two countries which are outside of the Schengen area. Sometimes it takes 6 to 8 hours to cross the border. And if you want to commute every day for working on the other side of the border, it's really not making any sense. We have the same problem with Romania, and we have issues related to accessibility because the several hundred kilometers of border between Greece and Bulgaria, for example, it has like 5 or 6 cross-border checkpoints. Some of them are not good for large trucks to cross. They're limited to 3.5 tons. We have a similar problem with Romania as well. We have the Danube River as the border, and we have 2 bridges over a territory or over a length of over 500 kilometers. So basically, if I have to summarize, there should be a lot of more efforts put by public institutions, by business chambers, industrial associations, in order to encourage the understanding of micro and small companies on what's going on in terms of legislation, in terms of how you operate or manage a company on the other side of the border, because again, major investments come from large or medium-sized companies from the metropolitan areas rather than the cross-border regions or prefectures in Greece and Bulgaria. One more thing, there is not a European grouping of territorial cooperation comprised of business organizations. There are 2 between Greece and Bulgaria, but they're mostly involving actors from municipalities, prefectures, from the public sector. We need much more and closer cooperation between business structures and support from the foreign investment agencies or SME agencies to encourage cross-border cooperation and making business, because the opportunity is there, but it's not really efficiently used. Thank you.
Ebony, thank you very much indeed. They're very interesting reflections. Can I just, if I may, ask you one question? Because if you may recall that I think it was at the last debate that we had, we were talking about the development of cohesion policy and how cohesion policy can assist in ensuring cross-border cooperation. And of course, the relationship between cohesion policy and the development of the single market is pretty substantial. I wondered has cohesion policy between Greece and Bulgaria in those respective countries contributed to trying to tackle some of these cross-border issues?
Oh, yes, indeed. The investments under the Greece-Bulgaria cross-border cooperation program are extremely important, but mainly for the public actors or non-government sector. There was a procedure under this program for SMEs to participate in joint projects, and due to the fact that they don't know each other well, it was difficult. There was a very limited participation of SMEs in cross-border projects. But for public policies, for transport networks, for healthcare, and for other services of general interest, indeed, the cross-border programs are extremely important. Here, we also need to have into consideration the fact that they're very limited in terms of budget. For example, the investments through the European structural and investment funds in each country are many times higher than the CBC programs. Therefore, it's difficult to evaluate the net effect of funding from CBC programs to the cross-border region. And therefore, national funds coming through the operational programs should also be targeted for joint investments in the CBC region together with the respective cross-border programs.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Evgeny. That's really helpful. Can I just turn to the results of the second poll, which will give us an indication of what some of the measures would be most helpful to cross-border cooperation. Of the choices available, an EU legal tool to enhance cooperation to solve those border obstacles receives the largest number of votes. Secondly, and together, one-stop shops and information centres on the one hand, and joint business incubators or accelerators and industrial zones on the other. And then enhancement of cross-border training and capacity building, and last but not least, enhancement of Interreg programs. So a number of differentials in the responses there. Let's turn to our next panelist, and Beata Czaplińska. Beata is from the Poland-Lithuania Chamber of Commerce and has worked on mutual business development and Polish-Lithuanian relations, organising many events, conferences and meetings. Beata, could you tell us something about how Poland and Lithuania across their border have been working on bringing good practice in business across that border?
Yes, thank you for possibility being with you. And I would like to say that I'm kind of glad as organization because businesses between Poland and Lithuania are doing really well. And of course, there are some challenges and I will tell soon, but I would like to say that both Poland and Lithuania are working hard to work on it, to do it better all the time. But some common obstacles, of course, there are. And first of all, is difference in regulation frameworks, variation in services or product standards. And the most painful probably is certification requirement. This certification requirement especially applies to the builders market, which of course we always face the problem that Lithuanian companies, established companies, are inviting building companies from Poland, but they avoid, for example, activity in Lithuania because of this certification requirements. Another step is taxation. Difference in tax regulations and rates may lead to increased compliance cost for small and medium businesses engage in cross-border trade. And for example, and currency difference, like the most like everyday problem for Lithuanian entrepreneurs and also for Poland, it's currency different because Lithuania joined European Euro zone in 2015, and in Poland it's still Polish zloty. And the fluctuation in currency exchange rate can impact pricing and profit margins. I mean, this rate is not stable. So, you know, making coffers or counting costs, they all the time need to face this problem, like to book day rate and so on and so on. So, but from other side, of course, we wish Poland to have zloty as long as possible, because thank of that, prices in Poland are also much better than in Lithuania. And saying honestly, it's not only currency, but for example, VAT for most of food in Poland, it's only 5%, and in Lithuania, 21%. So saying honestly, Lithuanians likes doing shopping in Poland very much. So another challenge, it's transportation, infrastructure, logistical, but the most important that there are narrow runs of railway tracks in Poland. But from other side, the Rail Baltica global greenfield railway transport infrastructure project is in progress. So it will integrate the Baltic countries into the European railway network. 5 countries of the European Union participate in this project. It's Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and indirectly Finland. So of course, we hope that we're gonna be able to travel from Warsaw to Vilnius and to have cargo, rail cargo very soon, much faster and much better. And another infrastructure project is international corridor, transport corridor connecting the Baltic countries with Western Europe via Baltica. He has also expressways between Warsaw and the border crossing in Budisko, and these are the largest road infrastructure construction work since the restoration of Lithuanian independence, what is more than 30 years. So, of course, so this is difficult challenges, but solving is in progress already. So we're very happy about it. And there are many less important challenges, such as language difference may pose communication problem, leading to misunderstandings in negotiation or agreements. But I think this can have every country, and we're happy to have all to speak most of European Union people in English, so we can communicate. And what could I tell is that the most important is, of course, economic and political stability in both countries. To solve this problem itself, so we have in Lithuania, we have 7 free economic zones, and so which are offering very good conditions, and many Polish companies are also working there, and they are located this 7 economic zone. 2 of them are located very close to the Polish border, which is also very convenient to the Polish business. So, you know, there are more than 220 probably companies, Polish companies in Lithuania, and almost 150 companies with Lithuanian capital in Poland. So the numbers are growing up. And as my previous speaker told, it's not only close borders business. Yeah, it's from all the countries, also from the capitals and from the larger cities. So what could I say? That Lithuania and Poland are working hard to improve this border crossing trades, like very good way.
Beata, thank you very much indeed. It's very, very clear and very helpful. Thank you. Let's complete our panel discussions with an hearing from Antonio Novo Guerrero, who is President of the European Clusters Alliance. Perhaps, Antonio, if you'd be kind enough to tell us something about how clusters are working in this context, and perhaps particularly with a focus on creating opportunities for innovation and more advanced manufacturing and related activities crossing borders using the clusters as a mechanism.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be here. Yes, you know that we are, as clusters, are focused on helping our members, especially SMEs to overcome those barriers, those difficulties coming for their small size, and one of them is the capacity to create the linkages and find the resources for this business outside the region. We were created 30 years ago, and when cluster started to work, it was a regional phenomena, but very, very quickly we created cross-cluster and cross-region linkages, and we created the environments to facilitate those kind of exchanges. And I have very good examples on the model that was presented by the Euro Chamber between the Basque Country, Nouvelle Aquitaine and Navarra. For example, there are real projects and very strong relationship between the Basque aerospace cluster, EGAN, and the aerospace cluster on the Nouvelle Aquitaine region, aerospace valley. And they have been cooperating a lot, facilitating the business, not only the innovation, processes, but also the creation of business between companies delivering services and products from both regions, to the other. And that is a reality. There are also very strong linkages between agri-food clusters, not only, for example, in the Basque Country. I have many references also with Lithuania, with Poland, with Catalonia and the south of France. It's also very well known the capacity to establish collaboration and linkages between companies working on digital or creative cultural industries between borders. So this is a reality, something that is happening. I am a little sad because in the poll it was not included the question about why not to reinforce those collaborations. We have been reinforcing cluster collaboration through Europe. So the European Commission launched past year the Euro cluster initiative. Why not to reinforce those linkages between clusters across borders? Because I think it will be really effective, especially for those more dynamic, more innovative SMEs.
Thank you very much, Antonio. Before we take additional questions from the audience, may I just go back to Beata, if I may, and just ask you one question, if Beata, you would be kind enough. You were talking about Polish and Lithuanian companies working in each other's countries. To what extent is that service companies being able to post workers literally on a daily basis to provide services in across the border? Are they doing that? Is it principally about the transfer of goods over the border? We increasingly have service industries and a service economy. Are those services being able to operate cross-border as easily as some goods can travel across borders? Beata, if you are there.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Were you able to hear that question?
I was not, sorry. Can you please repeat?
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I was just asking about the cross-border companies working between Poland and Lithuania. Mm-hmm. Are they increasingly able to be service companies providing services across the border, or are they principally the provision of goods over the border?
No, not only goods. Yes, definitely also services. And actually, the best investor, it's also insurance companies. That's definitely not only products. And for example, we as Polish-Lithuanian Chamber of Commerce, we actually try to identify suitable market entry strategies for all kinds of companies. So we are like first bridge. For example, if somebody have interest in both market, Lithuanian companies in Poland and vice versa, so we're like the first place which is helping to find this, to understand customer preferences, total market knowledge. So we're like helping to find the best business contacts, networks in this foreign market for both sides. You know, we're neighbor countries, and our history was common for 400 years. So I think for Lithuania, Poland is like most of entrepreneurs counted like first foreign trade market, not only trade, foreign business market, and the same Lithuania. It's much smaller market, but it's still interesting to Poland because it's also like window to another Baltic states. So it's definitely not only products.
Very good. Antonio, before I ask Mr. Letta to add further conclusions from his point of view and further reflections, I just wonder if amongst many of the clusters there is a great deal of work on innovation, and many businesses increasingly are providing services in the digital economy. In fact, every business is a digital business nowadays. Is that changing the character of the issues that we face? Is it actually helping us to no longer to be so worried about borders and increasingly operating in the digital economy in a border-free way?
Yeah, I fully agree. It's a reality, and it will be increased by the arrival of generative artificial intelligence. We need to be ready because that is opening the market in a big way, you know, and it's facilitating the exchange. Those that have difficulties with the language, for example, that difficulties will disappear very quickly, you know, because we will have intelligent system that will allow us to describe our ideas in a wonderful and beautiful way without efforts, you know. So indeed, that barrier is reduced, and that opens the possibility for increasing our collaboration between borders, you know. But I need to say, in that process, the SMEs needs support, you know. It's not easy for them to learn, to train, to understand the possibilities, the barriers, but also the challenges and the difficulties, you know. So the intermediaries, entities, has proved the capacity to support them, and between them, the clusters on the area of innovation and creation of a common view, for example, a long-term view on strategies, on development of investments.
Thank you very much. Ricardo, I just wondered if you wanted to tell us a bit more about how the B Solutions system is working in particular, because Evgeny and his colleagues have done a great deal of work on how B Solutions worked across the Greek and Bulgarian border. I just wondered if we've done a lot of work hearing about how these tools are helping to deal with administrative and legal obstacles. Are they being taken up? Do you have any overall reflections on how they're being taken up?
These solutions has been very effective in demonstrating that obstacles of a cross-border nature do exist, and obstacles can be solved whenever we are capable to join all the competent authorities at the same table. There is a compendia. I think the links for the compendia will appear in the chat in 1 minute. This compendia provides the knowledge on the different cases, but the actual takeover of the solutions, it also depends on local authorities, because frequently, if the obstacle is rooted in national law, then it depends to have changes in national law that need to be promoted by national authorities, not by European authorities. But B Solutions has also shown us the same thing that the second poll has shown, is that one of the most interesting solutions would be to have one European tool under one legal tool under a European framework. In 2018, we have proposed the European cross-border mechanism. More recently, in 2023, just a few months ago, the European Parliament has proposed one similar tool, to which they call the Bridge EU. But B Solutions, the experience from B Solutions, the experience that we get from the ground, the stakeholders' opinion, and that was confirmed by the poll in this debate today, is stating that we need to have a new tool that allows when there is political will to create solutions that apply to a specific territory. This is what the Commission has been pushing for. This is what the Commission has now to respond to the European Parliament on the solution, on the creating this new solution. This leads me to one interesting comment as well. The more I see about discussion on border obstacles, the more I see the link to the local proximity market, and frequently the solutions derive from the need of having legal frameworks that apply to a specific territory. A market is a 360 degrees around me, a circle around me, being me, a company, a person, a whatever. So the existence in a cross-border region of legal frameworks that apply to the entire cross-border region, be them via specific derogations to the law, be them by specific bilateral agreements, is what is needed for companies to have clarity of procedures, to have a market which is not hampered by legal obstacles. So perhaps the shift must be only approaching the legal framework to the specific proximity legal market.
Thank you very much. Mr. Letta, I wonder if we might come back to you. You've had an opportunity to hear some of those examples of working across the Poland-Lithuania border in Greece and Bulgaria, and some of the reflections on how clusters are working collaboratively. And obviously these border focal point network debates have illustrated how cohesion policy can support cross-border cooperation and how we can deal with some of the administrative and legal obstacles. If I may ask, are there conclusions that you might be able to take from this to assist you in your work on reporting on single market development?
Maybe before that, I have a question about the polls. Can I know better the figures of the poll?
Yes.
About the number of respondents, who are there, from which countries, something similar that will help me.
I'm sure we can provide that. I could see on the chat the numbers of responses were coming up. I think on the latter one, perhaps half of our audience were responding on the second poll. We have about 100 people on the call, of whom about half were responding, but I don't have a breakdown between which countries they were, but I'm sure that will be able to be derived and can be transmitted to you.
Great, because the two answers, the two slides were for me very, very interesting. I have maybe 2 points. One point is about the past. I'm sorry to say that, but I would like to know if you can help me in having more, I would say, ideas or more certainties about what happened in the past and what did not happen in the past. Because I don't want to be the one who launch a report reinventing the wheel. I would be very happy to be, I would say, completely aware of what happened and what did not happen in the past on this topic. You mentioned a proposal in 2018, for instance, on how to bridge, or other proposals. If you are able to help me in having a very short and very easy way to understand what is the historic of what happened, that would be very useful to me. Second, I strongly believe, and the panel confirmed that, and also the poll, that there's a legal topic that is crucial. This is why also I'm thinking in general to what we can do in terms of creating a unique corporate law for SMEs or something like that, because it is very clear, and I have no time to develop it, but I'm sure that for you it's something very usual, that SMEs and single market, it's a very a complicated issue for a very simple reason. The multinational and big companies, they have big offices full of legal advisors, and these legal advisors are very happy to work with multinational, and the more is complicated and the more money they get. So it's not a problem. But for an SME, if the legal framework is so complicated as it is because of the fragmentation of the corporate laws, for an SME, the immediate reaction to the single market is mostly a defensive reaction and not a proactive one. Is the way to say, because I work on local level, and most of the SMEs, they work at local level, I consider the single market more as a threat rather than an opportunity. Because it is someone coming in my local area from abroad, bringing me competition. So I would be more than interested in having a deep dive with you, with those of you who are interested in that, on the legal part, on the legal bilateral, but also on the legal in general, because in my view is the very core of the problem. Of course, there's also the other part of the business that is how to, if I may say, I say very, very short, how to build up a next generation EU to European and not national. That is my big point and my dream, if I may say. I know it is a really dream now, and it's very complicated because there's no consensus on that. But I think there, I'm sure that you have ideas and tools on how to help to build up something similar based on a cross-border cooperation. But I stop here because I want to give you, Andrew, 2 minutes to close our meeting. I thank you all for this opportunity that was really fruitful for me.
Mr. Letta, thank you very much indeed. I know there are indeed, from the debates we've had and the work that's being done through the Border Focal Point Network, there is a great deal of very useful information, not least, for example, about how tools can be developed to tackle those administrative and legal obstacles. And I think Ricardo was talking about the European cross-border mechanism and the more recent iteration of that. I don't know, Ricardo, if you wanted just to add something very quickly by way of your own additional conclusion on that.
I would say that this message of the single market should be more and more European and less national. It's the key point, the key starting point for the finding the proper solution. And indeed, one of the things I'm most proud of is the report that we launched, the Commission has adopted in 2021, which title is EU border regions are living laboratories of integration. This indeed is the European perspective. There is one sentence that we hear frequently in debates, is that whatever works in a border region, in a cross-border region, can work elsewhere in Europe. Whatever does not work in the cross-border region certainly will not work elsewhere in Europe, because there is where people feel daily their European citizenship, their capacity, their daily interaction in their daily lives. So this perspective of allowing to cross-border regions to flourish by getting them rid of the existing legal obstacles on the tiny little details is essential indeed to promote further European integration and the proper European single market.
Thank you very much. Actually, that is, you're quite right. That report in itself would be extremely helpful, I know, for Mr. Letta in his work, as indeed might some of the reports from the debates that have been taking place to look at and break down some of the examples and the issues and how they're being dealt with cross-border. I know you and your colleagues will be able to supply that. Can I close our meeting just by saying a very warm thanks, first of all, to you, Mr. Letta. Thank you for being with us and for listening to the views of our panelists and our audience. We will indeed follow up in the way that you requested. Can I say a big thanks to all of our panelists, to Evgeny, to Beata, to Antonio, and to Ricardo. It's been a pleasure to hear those very clear examples drawn from cross-border cooperation across Europe, indeed living laboratories of European integration and how we can make further progress in the future. Thank you all for your contributions. I would remind you that the debate and the responses can go forward on the Futurium platform. Do please take an opportunity to keep the debate going there. And please be aware that there will be the 16th debate. We anticipate in early February, details to be issued later on. So that this is the last debate of 2023. So we wish you a very happy season and new year. Wishing you a very happy new year, and we look forward to seeing you in 2024. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Mr. Letta, for your contributions. Thank you for being with us this morning.